Okay, welcome back. And we're going to look at working around the interface in this little video. Only a short video, this. Being able to see things. So when you draw something, you're probably not going to draw it and keep your A4 page as big as this all the way through. You probably want to zoom in every now and again. And you can use the zoom tool, which is this one. Now, you can have dynamic zoom. For some reason, mine's not working. But if you draw around a selection, it will zoom that bit in. If you click on it, it'll zoom in. And if you hold Alt, it will zoom out. There is dynamic zoom where you can click and drag. And as you drag, it will zoom in. But mine's not working at the moment. I don't really know why it's not working, but it's not working. Okay, so you might want to zoom in. Once you've zoomed in, you might think, well, I can't see anything because I can only see this little bit, and you might want to move somewhere else. You can use what's called the hand tool. So the hand tool will allow you to move the canvas or the page around so you can see the things you want to see in the window that you've got. So if you've got a big screen, you won't need to do as much. If you've got a little screen like I have at the moment, I've got on my laptop, you'll probably need to zoom in and use the hand a lot. But you'll probably never use this actual button here to do that. That's because the spacebar on your keyboard also doubles up as the hand tool. So you'll never really click on that because all you'll need to do is hit the spacebar and then zoom in. So once you've zoomed in and moved around and done whatever you need to do, if you want to come back out again, you can just click Alt and zoom back out again. Okay, and you can still use spacebar and move around. If you zoom out a lot, you'll see the entirety of the working area in Illustrator. So this is like a massive work desk, and our little page is in the middle of it there. It always starts in the middle. I don't quite know why they never started them over here, because I always get to this end here, and then I have to start a new line, a new row over here. So I can never understand, and this part of the Illustrator never gets used. So I'm not quite sure why the people in Illustrator left all this space over here, because it's only this bit that gets used. So let's zoom back in so we can see it. If you do get lost, you can also always go to View, and you can set it to full screen. You should be able to fit artboard in window. There we go. So if you do get lost, you can just click on Fit Artboard in Window, and it'll bring that artboard to the size of the window if you do get a little bit lost in something. So Artboards brings us onto another bit of information that we haven't covered yet. So when you're creating illustrations, what I want you to start doing really is not deleting things. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to spend 15 hours drawing something and all we end up with is like one A4 page, because there'll be an awful lot of work that's gone on in there. What I want you to start doing is I want you to start building your designs and leaving things behind. Okay? So you won't delete things, you'll just create a new artboard. So what we can do is over on our layers palette, you'll see there's an option tab for artboards. And at the moment we've got one. So if I click on plus here, it will add me another artboard. Which means that I can just copy and paste my design, whatever I'm working with, manipulate it, change it in some way, shape or form, make it bigger maybe, and the other original one's still there. And I can add more artboards and just keep adding artboards until I hit the edge of the page there. And as you can see, if we zoom out, you'll see what's happened. We've gone all the way along here, and then it's dropped us down to over here. Why it's not dropped us here, I have no idea. Again, another one of those idiosyncrasies of Illustrator. But for some reason, this is sacred land. Nobody gets to use this for artboards. Not quite sure. You can rearrange artboards. So you can go over to the little flyout menu here and just say rearrange artboards. And you can set them by columns and spacing and things like that. And then it will automatically put them to whatever you specified. Let's go back to how we were before. So let's just go back to having just a few artboards. Control Z will take us back to having just 3 artboards. You can actually duplicate or delete artboard. So if I click on that, I can just press the delete, it'll get rid of that artboard. And I can also duplicate this artboard. So rather than having to copy and paste things over, I can just drag that artboard into the plus and it'll duplicate that artboard there. So now I've got to duplicate. I can skip between artboards by clicking on here. So this little button down the bottom moves me between artboards. And that's really useful when you're pasting in place and things like that. You can see what percentage you're working at. You can see your rotation. You can actually rotate your artboards. So when you're working, especially when you're using a drawing tablet, you sometimes can't draw the line with your wrist, whereas you normally turn the paper around. In Illustrator, you can turn the board around. Again, it's not something I do very often at all. I think I've done it by mistake a couple of times, and then gone, well, how do I get that back? And then it takes me a couple of minutes to find out how to get it back to 0. So now they've put in this little button here, so I can actually go 45 degrees, sets it to 45 degrees, and then back to 0. So they've put in this little button down here, saves me from having to figure out how to turn it back to being the right orientation again. So we'll leave that there. The last little thing, actually, we'll talk about swatches before we go. So swatches are your colour swatches. Actually, no, we'll do a separate video on that. So I'll see you in the next video.